In this scenario, we will learn how to eliminate distractions from our graph. So our friend John is now working as a marketing head in an online matrimonial site, and he wants to compare the marriage rate for people with different levels of education. By levels of education, I mean that someone has cleared high school level, someone has done graduation, someone has done post graduation. So, what is the marriage rate for different levels of education? And he also wants to look at the trend of how this rate is changing for each of these levels of educations over a period of 5 years. So John collects this data for the different levels of education and for the last 5 years and plots it into a clustered column chart. This is how his chart looks like. The first set of columns is for all of the sample, and the other four is for individual category. That is, this is a set of people who have done less than high school. This is a set of people who have cleared high school. These people have gone to some college, and these people have bachelor's or more qualification. And the height of this columns is giving us the marriage rate over the 5-year period. So although by removing the primary axis and grid lines, John this time has avoided clutter in the graph, but is this graph clearly communicating the message, and whether we can suggest something to John to make it more clean and precise? Take some time to think about it. One thing John will be willing to communicate from this graph is that the marriage rate for this set of people is a little higher than others. That is, there is some exception here. Others are below 41 or 42, and this one is going up to 61. So, this series is having some exceptional values. So, he may want to highlight this graph, which is not clear from this. To do that, one option is de-emphasizing on these plots and emphasizing on this one. So you can clearly see that this part of the graph is de-emphasized, and the focus of audience straight away goes to this colored part. And since the point we want to make is that it is the largest, which is very clear from the heights of these bars. So one way of eliminating distraction caused by the other bars in a bar chart is to de-emphasize them and highlighting the one that you want to convey the message with. And if you want to color the bars like this, you can individually select the bars and change their color to gray to de-emphasize them, and the ones you want to emphasize on, you can select those bars and change its color to some bright color like this orange one or blue or black. Now, another alternative to representing this graph using a bar plot is to draw a line chart. Let me show you a line chart that can be drawn with the same data. So if you remember, there are two things John wanted to do. One is to compare the marriage rates of different categories of people, and the second thing is to see the trend of each of these categories over the years. So by drawing this line chart, we have eliminated a number of distractions. One of the biggest change that we have made is that we have moved from a bar graph to a line graph. First of all, a line graph typically makes it easier for us to see the trends over time. Secondly, when we had 25 bars in the previous graph, the same information is being given by 4 lines. So clearly we have reduced a lot of clutter. So organizing the data in this line graph allows us to use a single x-axis which can be leveraged across all the categories, and highlighting the data points like this helps us compare the performance of each category against the other. So the two aims of comparing the performance of each category against the other and seeing the trend of each individual category is clearly met with this small graph, which is clean and clutter free. So drawing this graph is very easy. On the x-axis we will take the years and we will plot these 4 data series as line charts. We will remove all the grid lines, remove the y-axis, highlight the endpoints and give it data labels manually, or you can add data labels for all the points and manually remove the ones that you do not want to show. Then we will add these legend names as separate text boxes. We will change the color of those data series which we want to de-emphasize. We will highlight the data series in a bright color which we want the audience to focus on. The text color of the legend names should also match with the color of the plotted lines. So this is how we create this chart, which is free of any distraction.